Welcome to Cosmic Compass Conversation. Thank you all for joining. And for those of you listening later, thank you for listening. We love it when you bring your energy in, whenever that is. So, welcome. First things first, we are going to do some breathing. Well, the reason we do this is to obviously just connect with ourselves, connect with our bodies, and we are also going to breathe to connect with each other and then connect beyond ourselves if that feels appropriate for you. Everything is an invitation. You don't have to do any of it. It's just a suggestion, invitation. So if you'd like to join me, I'm going to close my eyes. You can just lower your gaze if it's not comfortable to close your eyes or if you can't right now. Just take a normal breath. Notice where you are in your body. Feel where your energy is. And as you begin to settle into your body, bring some awareness maybe to your forehead, maybe into your throat, to your heart. And just breathe, bringing awareness to your solar plexus, to your sacral area, to your root, and just continue to breathe normally. And just feel your legs connecting all the way down to your ankles and feet. And just feel yourself fully here. And now we're going to breathe in, expanding the belly. And exhaling. On your next inhale, really feeling the earth beneath you. And as you breathe in, expanding your belly. And exhaling. On your next inhale, acknowledging the land that you're on right now and all those who came before, expanding your belly as you breathe. And exhaling. And on our next breath, just really being present, grounded, sending your roots into the earth, expanding your belly, feeling your connection, and exhaling. Beautiful. I could stay there for a while, but we'll come on back into the circle. I'm going to pull some cards and you can help me with your energy. We had a lovely tea and tarot on Saturday. It went so quickly. Pulling cards for every month of the year, doing some meditation, Reiki. It was such a great day. But now I want to make sure all the cards are mixed up. So I did pull some of the cards that we regularly pull, and I feel like really I want to cleanse and clear just under this full moon energy. And as we deepen in today, keeping in mind the full moon in Cancer, it's why I sent another email this morning, because the energy of this full moon is it's the most emotional of moons. There's a lot of feeling attached to this moon. I think there's just a ton of opportunity for intuition and nourishment, internal and external too. But no matter how it feels for you today, no matter what is happening for you, just to honor yourself for this week ahead. Give yourself the spaciousness that you might need on a full moon day, whatever that is. Some of you work in emergency services, and so I know that full moons can be challenging. So we're sending you lots of extra energy and love. The week ahead has a lot of astrological juice, we shall say. There's a lot happening with energies that they're very fierce and they're very powerful. Now, fierce can be fierce compassion. So I want to remind you all that words matter. So fierceness can come in a way of being compassionate, loving, kind. It can also come in different ways, but what it is that we stand for or how it is that we wish to be in the world, what is our passion? How do we want to traverse? So just keeping that in mind, just a few things. And then the nodal shift happened over the weekend. And so deepening into healing and compassion is exactly the plan. And this is why we have our wonderful guest. We decided that it is the perfect time for her to be here. So before I bring her on, I'm going to pull 3 cards. I think I've shuffled enough now. That was me stretching time. So good. All right. First card for our week. Oh, fell right out. Okay. I tend to like this card. It's not coming in very clear. Hold on. There we go. 10 of Cups. That hair reminds me of our guest's hair. Not that I'm pulling the cards just for you, but I just want to say 10 of Cups. Again, the best possible way to read the card is for you to connect in with how you feel when you see it. What do you notice? What stands out to you? Lots and lots of options here. It's the narrative that comes to you when you see the card that I think makes the difference when reading cards. What's the story here? And then how does that a story apply to you? How does it apply to our collective? So I'm not going to answer those questions right now. I'm just going to let us be with the questions. That's good. Next card. Oh, this one is definitely wanting to. Oh, wait. Oh, that one. Oh, this one. Oh, this one. This one fell out. So we have to go with this one. Okay. I always love the kitty in this one. Queen of Wands. Such a pretty kitty. Lots of light, lots of candles. And then whatever you see in this or feel in this, go with that energy. And again, just be in the narrative, be in the story, be in the question. And then the last card for today, and I made a deal with the guides. I said there were 2 cards and this one fell out first. And so I'm putting the other one back in. And if it's meant to come out again, it will. So that's kind of how this works. Okay, this one came out. And we get this one pretty frequently. There must be a reason. A little tree pose going on here. A balance. But again, what do you see? What do you notice? What do you feel? What's happening for you in this card? What's the story? So as the last card, building, and again, these, the way I do these, these are just 3 aspects of the week. There's not a beginning, middle, end per se, just what are the energies that we're working with this week? And there'll be other energies too. This is just 3. Certainly you can do your own card pulls as well, but there's a lot of support here. That's what I will say that, which I'm appreciating because I do think support is needed and necessary right now. So we're just going to drop into that. And I will use that as a segue to bring in our wonderful guest, another Denise. I'm just going to say a little bit and then I'm going to bring her on. I met Denise in Birmingham in the UK this summer, and we made a very powerful connection. I didn't really even know what You did when we met. I just knew that we had just this spark of connection. And it turns out that you are a very powerful inner and outer coach, I'm going to call it. You have, Denise calls herself the Move Well coach. You call yourself the Move Well coach. And I play with words a lot. And you and I have talked about this before, that movement, inner and outer, right? And then the well. We've played with the word well a bit. And so well meaning well, like excellent, well meaning healthy and wholesome, and then well meaning the well, like
Mm.
the depths. And so it might look like a really simple name, the Move Well Coach, but I have to tell you, this is Denise's work is very powerful, and I'm really excited to bring you here. And I would like you to say what you want to say, like where you live, how you work, just briefly, and then we're going to get into our conversation, which is literally a conversation. She has no idea what we're going to talk about. I have no idea. This is how cosmic the conversations are. They flow. So, Denise, welcome. Thank you for being here. Would you like to share just a little bit more about who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Sure. Thank you,
Okay.
Denise. It's an
Yeah.
honor and it's a blessing to be here, and I'm so excited for today.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely perfect that we're speaking today, I think. We tried to arrange it in December, and the universe said no.
Nope.
So I'm coming to you from Windsor in the UK, but as you can hear from my accent, I'm originally from upstate New York, and then I spent many years in North Carolina, and I moved here 22 years ago. 22 years ago. Um, and I've been on this real transformational journey from working in corporate to what I do today through lots of ups and downs. Life really threw a bunch of stuff at me as a single mom, as a mother of a child going through a chronic health journey.
Mm.
And um, I started my journey with a focus on the physical body in yoga and then in healing around my daughter and in myself. And that work has evolved and evolved and evolved. And actually, I'm excited because this is the first time I've spoken with anybody about this current evolution of work, which I've shared with Denise, which has come out of a really big year last year.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to have you here in
I'm
all the
excited.
capacities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot we want to talk about. So, is there anything else you want to say first off before we dive in?
No, I figure you'll lead
Okay.
us into,
Well,
yeah.
I want to dive in, and I also want to set the groundwork. So, let's talk about, again, you just mentioned that the world you were in wasn't serving you well enough for the challenges that were surfacing, and you found a different path. Um, do you remember, or do you have a moment where you realized, okay, I've got to do something different? And do you remember that moment?
There's been several moments.
Yeah.
And I always knew that the world I was in wasn't aligned with my soul.
Mhm.
And I- people often say to me, well, how do you know? Well, you just know. I know you guys here in this community know,
Yeah.
probably easier than most,
Yeah.
but most of us know if we're aligned or not. We can feel that angst, which is the calling of the soul.
Mhm.
So, yes, there were several crux points in my life where I knew I had to go do something that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I kind of leaned in and went, okay, I'm going to go do that. And off I went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think back on those years, because that this is actually something that comes up a lot. How do I lean in when I'm scared? How do I lean in when my security is at risk? How do I lean in when I'm a mom? How do I lean in when I'm a solo parent? Those, this is why you do what you do, though, because we don't lean in alone, right?
We can try to lean in alone.
Yes. Would you like to say more about that?
When we try to lean in alone, when we try to lean in without any safety whatsoever at all,
Mhm.
what ends up happening is we go into, for those of you who are familiar with nervous system work, we go into fight, flight, freeze. We go into a patterned way of living our life from overthinking,
Mhm.
which is really living our life from the will and the ego. We're trying to push our way. It's almost like trying to push the snowball uphill and trying to work really hard and try to get things done. And
Mhm.
and actually that will serve a purpose so far
Mhm.
in certain scenarios, in certain environments. It
Mhm.
certainly helped me when I was in corporate with
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
of it. But in order to step out of that, in order to look fear in the eye
Mhm.
and to know who you are and to be in alignment with who you are, and I mean body, mind, heart, and soul,
Mhm.
looking that fear dead in the eye and allowing yourself to do the work a little bit, very gently at a time, a little bit each and every day, you start to invite your being into trusting the flow of the universe, the
Mhm.
flow of life, and the flow of your soul from within.
Yeah.
And what will happen is that the more we lean into that trusting and surrendering to the flow of life and the flow, the call of our soul, the more we're able to navigate the storms. I like to think of them as portals,
Yes, I
the
love
little
portals.
portals,
Yes.
portals. So we are offered portals in our life all the time.
Yeah. Clearly.
Clearly. We have big portals and little portals. And when we're able to navigate our way through those portals powerfully,
Mhm.
using them to answer the call of our soul to expand into who we be,
Mhm.
then we can step more and more deeply into our purpose here on this earth.
Yeah. Exactly.
But most of the time, we hit this portal and fear gets in the way. And we look at that fear and we're standing on the precipice of an edge of a cliff and we hesitate. And that's where we start to feed our fear. And that hesitation turns into a pause, turns into a longer waiting. Oh my God, oh my God. I
Mhm.
imagine that
Totally.
would be me if I ever tried to do skydiving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then that becomes a stuckness.
Mhm.
And then that becomes a uh, 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 a cage
Mhm.
that starts to shape how we live our life.
Mhm.
That stuckness hardens around us.
Mhm.
And we lean into that hardening around us, thinking it's going to keep us safe, but actually it's keeping us trapped. Mm.
I would agree with everything you said. And you can all see that Denise and I speak very similar languages, so that you could tell like that connection we have is very powerful. I can remember my own experience of needing to, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like we need to make a change, whether it's a job or a relationship, or a geographic change, even. The fear of change is it's normal. We want to just normalize that. And you're right. As we stay in what we consider to be secure or stable or whatever the word is that comes up for us, there is a stuckness that begins. I kept hearing like a calcification. That was a word that was coming to me, just a hardening of
Yeah.
that experience. So taking the first step, taking a small first step, and this is something I really appreciate about you as well, is your gentleness.
Mhm.
You're brave and courageous and curious and want to explore, and you're also really gentle. And you take that into account. And I really appreciate that. So the first step is, as they say, and I agree, the hardest of all the steps. So there are ways that we can move inside, and there are ways we can move in our body before we even need to make a first step to make the change in our life.
Mm.
And I have a feeling that you might have something to say about that.
Yes, I do.
Yes, would you like to share?
I do. So when we consider stepping into, I call it an extraordinary life or a magical life. What we're
Mhm,
talking about is creating a life that is not normal,
mhm,
that you really want to live in accordance with your soul and with who you be.
mhm,
So pushing is not the answer. Working hard is not the answer. Striving is not the answer. We can't get there that way. So how do we get there? Well, I think the first smallest step is actually making a commitment to yourself.
mhm,
And the commitment is to a very gentle a way of integrating nourishing your body, your mind, your emotions, and your soul on a daily basis.
mhm,
Having a way of having that commitment. uh, When I start working with clients, I start with, in one of my membership spaces, it's 5 minutes.
mhm.
Everything's like 5 minutes because we can all fit 5 minutes into a busy day. Because usually you're starting from a place of stress.
Right.
And it's how are we nourishing our nervous system,
Mhm.
and understanding the science of that is a big piece in the beginning.
Yeah.
Then you need courage. You mentioned courage.
Yeah.
And I think there's 5 kinds of courage we need.
Ooh, this is exciting.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
everybody, take notes.
5 kinds of courage. So the first kind of courage is actually the courage to slow down. And
She says.
how many of us go a million miles an hour in overwhelm with too much to do through our days?
I wouldn't know anything about that.
No
So.
one here. So, and actually that's safe,
Mhm. Yeah,
because if we're going really fast, we can't be caught.
right.
But also, if we're going really, think about driving a car 100 miles an hour and you try to
Yeah,
take that right angle turn, you're going to crash.
not gonna happen. No.
At least I would, yeah. So the first bit of courage is actually, can you slow down and listen?
Yeah.
Second bit is, can you look within yourself and allow yourself to see and know yourself?
Mhm.
Now, I suspect this group is probably a group that does that.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, but the majority of people I meet out and about in the world often say to me, God, I don't know who I am.
Mhm.
Once you know who you are, then the next question becomes, will you allow yourself to be, will you, once you see yourself, will you allow yourself to be seen by the world, by others?
Mm. That's
How many
good.
of us walk around wearing masks or hats?
Mhm. Or the
Or
invisibility cloaks.
cloaks? Yes,
Yeah,
cloaks.
and the
So,
invisibility, like,
yeah,
don't look at me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or just because this is easier, I don't have a cloak that I can put on. I'm doing my work, so I'm going to wear this hat.
Yeah.
I'm with my family, I'm going to wear this hat.
Mhm.
And I'm with a friend, so I'm going to wear this hat.
Yeah.
And you're changing who you're being and how you're showing up
Mhm.
depending on the exterior world.
Mhm.
That's exhausting. And you're really not letting anyone see who you really are as yourself. You're
Mhm.
not showing, you're not allowing your authentic self to be seen, so you can't be met.
Yeah.
So then, once we've gotten through those 3 courages,
Three. Yes.
three, then do you have the courage to live from your authentic self?
Mhm.
Which kind of goes hand in hand. Live listening to your soul, which that's kind of part one of part two, which is 5, which is, do you dare to step outside of the cultural conditioning and what the rest of the world
Mhm.
views as normal? And I
Mhm.
suspect this group is probably pretty okay with that,
I'm
but
guessing.
yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah. For most people to talk about subjects like death or the
Mhm,
spirit world
mhm,
or angels or to allow yourself to live outside of the conditioning, the normal cultural conditioning of the
mhm,
US, UK, Western world.
mhm.
Um, but to have an extraordinary life, you can't live a normal life. So
So there you go.
there
I
you
love
go.
that.
I've heard this. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us too, because it's actually perfect. It fits really, really well. And this is something I really appreciate um, about you, about your work. You put a lot of thought into the steps. I'm a real big picture person, so it's harder for me to break things down into steps. I can do it, but I have to work really, really hard to do that. And creating these beautiful, gentle steps allows, I think, for a deep level of transformation at a pace that works for each person. And I appreciate courage number 5, stepping outside the cultural conditioning. I think many of us are born outside that, but then I can only speak for myself, but then drawn into what we think we ought to do in order to fill in the blank, right? And when I stepped away from that in 2011, it took everything I had to do all of those steps. And I had been doing a lot of them already, but it was number 4 and 5 that I felt were the ones where I have always said this to people, my soul felt like it was suffocating. And that if I didn't make that change, my soul wasn't going to make it. I don't know if my body would have made it, but my soul was definitely screaming and saying, I've got to make a change. This isn't going to work. There's more that you're meant to be in this world. And that's not about like meant to be seen or heard, but just like there's more that wants to develop and evolve and grow. And I had to step away from a really good life in a lot of ways, but a very, I would say more, I mean, I've never been of the norm clearly, but more of the at least normal looking from the outside life, right? So then it changed and became what it is now. And I always say, do I always say this? I think I mostly say this. Um, it has not been an easy journey. And I'm really honest about that because, and I think a lot of people here and a lot of people listening understand that when we are our authentic selves, the challenge is to stay authentic in the face of, um, you know, things that don't necessarily align or agree or support who we are. And so that has been part of the challenge of these last many years. And certainly we learned that early on, especially if we are born with, I think, some gifts that are outside. And everyone, I think, has access to intuition. I think everyone has access to all these gifts. And some of us just really come into them right away or earlier, and we do find the need to protect ourselves, which is why we build those safe, walls. That safe containers are great. But once, like you say, the things begin to harden and begin to become a cage or a trap, that's not going to serve us because ultimately we're here to grow. And we're here, I think, to move into the wellness of being who our soul wants us to be. And that's really what your message is. And it's what you do. So, can you say more about how you take people through this process?
Yes, and you actually said something at the very beginning. You said, I think I knew my soul wouldn't be okay and my body might have been.
Yeah.
And now we'll never know
We'll
because
never
that
know.
and
Yeah.
this is now. However, from the basis of my work, what I always say is that actually your body wouldn't have been.
And I think I can confirm that in one sense, even though we can't know for sure. But what I do know is I did have a lot of health issues and I have chronic health stuff. A lot of us sensitive people tend to have more health related things going on, but I have been healthier.
Yes. Your
And
body is your microphone.
mhm, I love that.
It's not that you're sensitive and you have health related things going on. It's that your body is speaking, it's intuiting, it's
Right,
messaging
right.
loudly at all times, and that's a huge gift.
Yeah.
Now, whether our stuckness comes in the form of we're ignoring our soul and we're living a life that's completely antithetical to who we are,
Mhm.
whether it's we're completely ignoring the needs of our body and we haven't put, gasoline or petrol in the tank and air in the tires and we're trying to
Right,
drive around half, ignoring our car,
right.
our body, or whether we're emotionally suppressing griefs
Mhm.
from big and little losses that we've gone through in life and we've never allowed those to process through, or whether we're just stuck in the overthinking brain of ego and will. We're
Mhm.
living from that place of ego, our identity that we've created and pushing ourselves through,
Mhm.
which drives us to constantly look in our life for confirmation and for attention, and we're grasping out here
Mhm.
for anything to nourish that. Any of those stucknesses on any of those layers is going to affect every other layer.
Yes, agreed.
So, yeah. So pick a layer. Now, usually for most people, the body is a safer place to start because the heart and the mind tend to have more defense mechanisms that'll go up instantaneously.
Mhm.
The heart being the seat of the soul, the mind trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
So usually we can start to work with the body with some sensing and feeling practices, with some somatic practices
Mhm.
as a way of softening everything down to gain access to. And for many of my clients, we start there.
Yeah.
However, depending on you, and I suspect this group might be one of the however, might be in the however category, sometimes a conversation that shifts your perspective in how you're looking at a situation in your life
Mhm.
is enough to dissolve the physical stress and tension as well as the mental emotional stress and tension.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I believe from the experience of my work with all of the clients I've worked with that actually the most powerful way is to bounce back and forth between.
Mhm.
So
Give us an example of that.
yeah, so I've had a client, I'm thinking of one client who came to me really stuck in anxiety, and she had done all of the talking therapies and she had done a whole bunch of stuff and she was really stuck and she also had a lot of physical
Mhm.
issues.
Mhm.
The only way in was to go between in a session, we would do some somatic body work
Mhm.
and have a coaching conversation
Mhm.
and go
Yes.
back and forth.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of another client who was so physically stuck in a twist and he was in severe nerve pain, but
Mhm.
his he was no, thank you very much, just the body work, please. Thank you. Thank you. And it came to a point where in the beginning we started that, and then I had to say, no, we're doing coaching and body work together
Mhm.
because actually the seed of the physical manifestation of pain is actually an emotional
Mhm.
um, calcification.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Calcification. Exactly.
You've just added a word to my work.
Yeah.
And ultimately, those stucknesses, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whether we've lost relationships or given up on dreams or lost houses or jobs or lost people in our lives,
Mhm.
those griefs, those losses,
Mhm.
knowing how to stay in alignment with ourselves and to move through grief
Mhm.
is the foundation of this work.
Big breath, everyone. We're about to dive deep on the tender Cancer full moon. Um, I agree. And it's not something that I take lightly. And it wasn't a way that I wanted to approach my life early on, but there is a need to not bypass that and to go through it with awareness and love and fierce compassion for self, all the things that I think that this moon and this time that we're in right now asks of us. So, are you in a place where you want to talk a little bit about what you've recently learned?
Very,
Okay.
very happy to
Okay.
talk about. Are you talking about the visions or what are you talking about?
All of it. You
Yes.
can go wherever you want to go.
Okay, so last year my father passed in February. Now he was 91, 92. So I have to check. I don't remember numbers. I don't have a brain for numbers. But his death was sudden. So
Mhm,
I experienced the sudden loss.
mhm,
And in the fall, and through my work with Denise, it was apparent that my mother who had dementia was in the process of her departure from this planet. And it took a while. There was a fall, there was some soul hesitation. It was a couple of month process from the time that she fell and broke her hip to the time that she actually departed in December.
yeah,
So within 10 months, I lost both of my parents and also a one-to-one client that I had worked with for a very long time through his cancer journey.
yeah,
So in 10 months, three big significant losses that took me into the beautiful exploration and landscape that is grief and navigating grief and loss and the gifts that it brought. Now, I owe Denise a huge massive bucket of gratitude to pour over her with sparkles and stars and everything because the navigation of my mother's transition and Andrew's transition and the coming to understand the implication of some of the dreams and visions I had was deepened through our conversations and the work that we were doing. I had one dream shortly after my mother passed. She passed in early December of probably because it was Christmas time, like
mhm.
a sleigh with these very long lines of people pulling the sleigh. And my mother was at the front, and next to her was in another line, the line next to her was my father. And I was watching, and it was like these were lineages of ancestors lined up and connected and the the line the sort of the horizontal line were souls that had passed recently and the linear line was going back through the eons of generations, and this was the most beautiful vivid of dreams. And so I messaged Denise and went, is this a thing? And she went, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It's a thing. And one of the things that has come to me, and my father's around and helping me in this work. I know he is. I can feel him. He's around. My mother's still doing her soul's work. She hasn't appeared really yet, even though we're a month on, and she's in her own time.
Mhm.
Is that lineage of connection, that viewing of birth as a portal and death as a portal, and of these small griefs in our lifetime as portals to continually expand in the way that a caterpillar melts into goo and comes out as a butterfly with a new identity. Each of these little portals that we go through asks you, your soul is asking you to expand your identity and up level your identity or not. You don't
Yeah,
have to.
choice, free will.
But if you don't, that grief gets stuck and you end up putting that as this weight of a rock in your rucksack or
Mhm.
backpack. I'll
Yeah.
speak both languages that you'll carry around with you, and eventually you end up with all of this weight on you and and it weighs you down. And it struck me that these threads, these ancestry threads that are coming before us, that
Mhm.
we are a part of as we navigate through this life, and that will come after us through our children and our children's children. Or if you don't have children, And also, even if you do have children, through who you be as a soul here in this earth and through how you serve, how you are of use. So by giving your gifts, by living in alignment, which is why we're called, why our soul is sitting on the branch of the next tree, calling and calling and calling like a mother bird calling to her baby, calling you and calling you and calling you and calling you in your life. Because if we can live in alignment, mind, body, heart, and soul, and approach each day with an awareness of our life and our death, and cherish our mind, body, heart, and soul in that alignment, then we get to serve.
Mhm.
And I had this vision this morning when I woke up of these threads that sometimes weave themselves together like a rope and become stronger
Mm, love it.
as we walk like soul groups through
Yeah.
our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, I love this. I'm taking notes.
Okay.
I do have some of it already that you've shared with me written down, but there is the grief journey. It is something that I think, there are more and more people beginning to talk about that. I think many people here are very comfortable understanding that there is a journey around grief. Um, One thing that I think a nexus of this point in time where we are just historically, but also astrologically, with the nodal shift from Aries to Pisces and some other things happening going from Pisces to Aries. There's a lot happening this year. Um, is we have been living in a time of unrelenting stress
Yes.
that's unprecedented for us, like for this lifetime. There have been other lifetimes, and I'm not going to bring up the history, although it is relevant to the it's relevant to the astrology this year. But if we go back in time, there have been other eons of and eras where people have been living in unrelenting stress with pandemics and different things that have come up. And the losses, whether it's a loss of a job or the loss of a place to live, or loss of family, friends, um, this does seem to be a theme that we have to contend with right now, whether it's a natural disaster or not a natural, but a disaster that shifts things in our lives. Or it could be something as natural as the life cycle
Mm.
of a human or a beloved animal friend.
Mhm.
Grief comes in some form every day.
Yep.
There are shifts that come every day. And I love, as you say, seeing them as portals
Mm.
of possibility. Now, you've shared with me some things in writing that we haven't yet talked about,
Yeah.
but I'm going to share something that I've only shared with a few people over the years, and we don't have to stay in this conversation, but I thought I should share it, and then maybe we'll see where we go with it. So a long time ago, I had a dream. And this is one of those dreams. Every so often, I have one of those dreams. And that's how I know it's like that there's the dreams, and then there's those dreams. So this was a long time ago. I mean, I can't even, these 25 years ago, easy. I woke up and I was like, "Oh, that was one of those dreams." And I woke up wanting to create an experience, a physical, emotional, spiritual, mental experience. And the title of that experience was going to be The Evolution of Death. We were going to start by going on a trip I was going to start in Vietnam because that's where my father was, where he killed a lot of people. So let's just call it the way it is. I wanted to start in Vietnam because that's where some energies that have been with me my whole life kind of started. But you could pretty much start anywhere. You could start anywhere. I had a fascination with graveyards my whole entire life. I have more I know I'm not really an artist, but I love to sketch tombstones. So I have lots of those somewhere. I have lots of sketchbooks full of tombstones. And I do, yes, I do talk to people who have passed over. So yes, we all know that. But the evolution of death was a journey that I felt like we all wanted to go on some level. And it was a way of understanding our lives by understanding that death is an evolution. Now, it wasn't until this morning when I read a text message from Denise that I realized that you have had the same vision with a lot of information coming through. Now, I've been holding on to this for a very long time and haven't done anything with it because I didn't really know where to go with it. I just knew that this was something that was important. But when I read your text this morning, I was like, oh, see, she knows. She's got more information. She just got the next iteration of what does this mean? So I don't know if you want to go there or not, but it is interesting for me. And it's also deeply tender to consider that the losses and the grief, they can lead us into a better life, into a greater, more evolved, vibrant, radiant life. So do you want to share anything around that?
Yes, a couple of things come to mind. So sometimes the most freeing thing we can do is actually to recognize and acknowledge that we are going through grief.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, unless it looks like somebody has died,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
usually we don't.
Right.
Um, I'm thinking of a client experience today around a relationship and the pain in a relationship that wouldn't traditionally culturally have been labeled with the word grief, but actually it is a grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just calling that out is helpful.
Oh, yes.
Allowing yourself to stand in the process of saying goodbye,
Mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to stand and to know how to work with the emotions by allowing them to flow through you.
Mm-hmm.
Nourishing your nervous system, there's a lot of nourishing your nervous system first to then allow the emotions to flow through and to consciously choose through your commitment and through your capacity, developing your capacity through daily practice to be able to choose the stories you tell.
Mm-hmm.
Frequently, we do one of two things. We downplay our own power through our words.
Mm-hmm.
We tell stories. Somebody will say something to you, recognizing you, and you bat that compliment or you bat that away or you downplay.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Right.
Stand in your power.
Yes.
Be your true self. That's what I mean by let your true aligned self show up in the world because only when you speak from your true voice are you being authentic.
Right.
Are you being, anyway. So we either downplay our own power or where was I going with this? It's
We choose our
easy for
stories.
me.
We choose.
Oh yeah, so we choose our stories. So by the story we tell, we naturally, by the words we choose, we create spells.
Yes.
We
See,
draw cards. We create spells with the words we use.
yes, we do.
Um, I was having a conversation today, and a client named a physical pain in her body like it felt like somebody's stabbing me. Why would you say that?
Mhm.
Because to create the story that somebody stabbed you, whether it's today or whether it was a last lifetime,
Mhm.
your your unconscious brain doesn't have a linear time scale. So it doesn't know the difference between it was
Mhm.
happening then, it's happening now.
Mhm.
It's contracting down, or it's speaking to me, or
Mhm.
it's asking me to slow down and get curious,
Mhm.
would be alternative ways that you could choose and stay in your power around how you created spells with your words or thoughts.
I love
We
that.
tell with our words and our thoughts
Mhm.
the stories that we build our life out of.
So important. Yeah.
And that comes ultimately at the stories we tell ourselves about death.
Mhm.
Do we embrace death? Do
Mhm.
we look our own death in the eye? Do we talk about death?
Mhm.
Most of the time, we don't.
Mhm.
We don't talk about death. We don't embrace death. We don't look at death.
Mhm.
We stuff everything down and we push it away and we do everything we can to, you know, stop the wrinkles from coming. Eh. So the more we can normalize death,
Mhm.
our death, the deaths that happen through the changes,
Mhm.
the more we allow ourselves to be in the flow of life,
Yeah.
the more we allow our soul to flow. Because if we think about if our soul's natural capacity is to be in constant expansion, well, that's constant change,
Mhm.
which means that there's a constant shedding.
Mhm.
So does the butterfly get stuck mourning the fact that the caterpillar died?
Mhm.
Or does it uh, burst through the chrysalis? It's not a moth. I looked up my science. Does
Excellent.
it burst through the chrysalis? Yeah. And allow itself to fly as a butterfly?
Beautiful image and beautiful question. A really important inquiry.
Mhm.
For as much as I enjoy speaking with people on the other side,
Mhm.
I don't really look forward to my own passing from this earth. So it isn't, it's not that I don't talk about it, but I'm definitely one of those people that's like, we'll just cross that bridge when we get there. But knowing what I know and knowing, again, good coaches, good therapists, good support people, it is really helpful to embrace the cycle at the very least. If we, it's like, okay, yeah, there is a cycle here. And how can I live well as I move forward in life, right?
When we're not looking and acknowledging the fact that we're going to die, today has less meaning. Right now has less meaning.
Mhm. Yeah.
When we hold that close, my God, today's really important. That's not
Every
wasted.
day is important. Every day is really important. I know it's kind of funny because people have told me that they think I'm kind of morbid because I do think about death. I think about death. I think about cycles of life. And what is important for me is not to get stuck there. So there's that fine line, right? There's the knowing and the understanding and the opening, like you say, the opening that happens when we embrace this versus the this isn't going to happen. We're going to stay as young as possible forever and live forever culture. And it's really this, I don't know if I don't think it's in every culture. I think actually there are quite a number of cultures that don't live like the American culture lives. So, and within that, I realize everybody has their own path and is living their own way with their own values and principles. And what I love about your work is it, no matter where we are in that spectrum of thinking about or considering, the gentleness of how you work
Mm.
allows people to gently move forward and make those bigger openings happen. And I know it's not effortless, but there's an ease to it because there's the guidance that you're offering as well as the support. And you do have group, you're taught, you have your group
Yeah.
groups that you have, and you have one-on-one sessions as well and retreats. So there's a lot happening in your world that offers the guidance, wisdom, and support. And just because of the time, we could talk forever about all of this, and we will. But I do want to give you an option right now to talk about what you have for people in different parts of the world, because we have people here in the United States in different time zones, Canada, UK, we might have people in other countries as well. So I'm just looking to see who's here right now. So could you say a little bit about what the options are?
Sure. So the
Okay.
beautiful thing about my work, it doesn't matter where you are, you can access it. I can do one-on work online, one-to-one work online or in person.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. Um, the my Telegram membership, which you can access anytime, anywhere, would be the place to start. And
Mhm.
that is the 5 minutes a day. That's for somebody who's stuck in deep stress
Mhm.
and can't commit to anything other than 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes a day is good. I
Yeah,
mean,
if
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that's kind of the basic, and that's very much on the science of the nervous system, sensing and feeling into the body. It's more body heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I dribble in some of the more esoterical, the
Hmm.
soul aspects of it and the mindset aspects of it as well.
Right.
And from there, there's you can upgrade, and there's a small group space
Hmm.
if you wanted conversations with me, and then I do one-to-one work. And I'm about to launch. I'm I'm launching a retreat, which
Yes,
is
you
a
are.
month immersion experience.
Mhm.
However, you all will laugh. I'm a single mother, and my daughter's doing the Duke of Edinburgh Silver Award, which means she's going off into the wilds on exactly the day after the date that I was going to start the retreat. So I just have to check with the location. So the dates might shift a
Okay.
little bit this way or a little bit that way.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyway, the immersion experience will be a deep experience
Mhm.
on the gift of grief, of hello and goodbye. I call it the experience. How ironic that you mentioned that as your dream.
Yeah.
That will be in person in the UK for 2 nights.
Hmm.
It will be online for 2 months, a month before and a month after. So we'll run from the end of winter to the end of April.
Hmm.
I do have a web page, and right now that web page will take you to a link that
Hmm.
will get you to yes, I'm interested.
Hmm.
Put me in,
Hmm.
let me know when you have the final details finalized.
Hmm.
So I'll send that to you afterwards, Denise.
Yeah. And let me just say, so if people go to your website, is that web page on your website?
I need to activate it.
Okay. All
I
right.
will
So,
activate it when I get off the call.
okay, great. Then what I'll do is we'll put it in the follow-up
Yeah.
to this conversation. And
But
then
everything else is on the webpage.
yeah, good. And let me just put that web page in the chat so people can see that. And then for those people who are watching and listening on YouTube, I'll put things in the comments so they have access. I think I just want to say this. Thank you so much for everything today. I I know when things are good. I know when people are offering quality experiences with integrity. And even though I'm not going to be there at that particular immersion retreat, I know it's going to be amazing. I can feel it. We've looked at the astrological timing. We understand what's going on in the sky. We've done a lot of work around this, she and I. So I can say that there's a support there for all of us. And I also want to remind, kind of just as an aside, but also I think it's something important for all of us to remember when we do our individual work. So if I go to an immersion retreat, that's deepening the gifts of grief, right? The deepening into those gifts. I'm doing that for myself, but I'm also opening the portal for others. There's a way in which our personal work turns into transpersonal work.
Mm.
We have to do the personal first. But with the nodal shift moving into Pisces, honestly, you wouldn't have wanted to do this immersion any sooner.
Mhm.
This is the time for this type of immersion to happen. It's a time where we are more open and where the energy of the cosmos is calling us to go into these deeper places and heal. So your timing is really, really, really perfect
I
without
trust it.
needing to be perfect.
I trust in the universe and the guidance it sends. So
Yeah. So
always.
thank you so much for being here. I'm just super grateful. I'm gonna take us off the recording in a minute to see if anyone has any questions for you. But I really want to thank you for being here with us, for providing us with some really, really good information, but also some deeper inquiries and opportunities to meet with you and talk with you. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. It's been a pleasure.